Maybe Shlomo eats.
All right. Reish Ayin Aleph.
You gotta move these guys. Give me a sword.
Up.
All right. All right, Timmy, can you see us?
האם זה זמן ללמוד או זמן לאכול ארוחת בוקר?
We were just eating something in Eli Nishmas, Dr. Noble's mother, yard site, first yard site. No,
תן לי קצת.
third yard site. It's today. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll learn in her memory.
Thank you.
And we appreciate that. Did she like Kiddush?
He didn't like when my dad drank too much. So
okay.
my dad always came back from shul saying he had one. The problem is his one was like this big.
All right, so we begin.
Line, my father would say, "What are we drinking to?" He say, "How about 3 a.m?"
All right, so here we go. We are in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph. We are Sif Yud Gimel. Last week we finished Sif Yud Beis, which talked about how we make Kiddush, wash, and then make Hamotzi. There are those who wash, make Kiddush and Hamotzi. That is not the widely practiced position, but we of course know many Yekki Jews many Yekkis who do that. Anyway, so now we talk about how much needs to be considered when we make Kiddush on Friday night, and the same halacha should apply as well also for Kiddush and Shabbos morning. So here we go, Sif Yud Gimel. Mechaber writes, "Sarich lishtos mikos shal Kiddush kamulo lugma. Dahainu kol sheyisalkenu litzarecha bepiv v'yeira'eh melo lugmav." Okay, and then we'll clarify how much that is in a moment. So just translating. So you need to drink from the coast that upon which Kiddush was made, kimilo lugmav, which would actually really mean. So we usually think of it as a cheeksful, and it is. No, in practice, it's a cheeksful, but really, it's a mouthful. Okay, and that's why he has to clarify here. We always know milo lugmav as cheekful, but it's not really what it means. Right, the word maleh means full. Lugmav is really a mouthful, and so the hainu kosh is what does it mean to have a full mouth? It means kol sheyisalkenu litzad echad befiv. It's that you should move all the contents in your mouth. You could imagine all the liquid contents in your mouth, and you would move them or sort of remove them all to one side. Right? You push it all to one side in your mouth. V'yeira'eh melo lugmav, and then it appears full. Meaning that's where you get this idea of a cheek full. So if you push everything to one side, I actually recommend you try this one time, not in front of other people because it'll be disgusting. People will think, "Ugh, what are you doing?" But you try to fill your here. David Noel's going for it, right? You can actually probably then if you then were to now don't do this in front of other people. If you would like, go in the kitchen and do this, and then you would kind of spit it back into a cup. You can actually measure the size of a malo lugmav for yourself, which may actually be really. Which may matter halachically if you're really on the margins here of how much you should drink. We'll talk about about this whether it's objective or subjective, this whole lugmav business, and then the Shulchan Aruch explains how much is this shear. V'hu rubo shel revius. It is the majority of a revius. All right, we'll explore the origins of the term revius today. By the way, does anybody know where it comes from? Why is the shear for a drinking? What is a revius? A revius of what? What is that? It's going to be not of a hint of a. We're going to talk about a lug, okay? But I think it's, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's a volume.
So it's actually yes. It's yes. So we'll see more about this in a moment. But anyways, it's a rubo shel revius. Now, just to get you some numbers here. because I want it's a practical halacha here, so I want to try to give you some guidance. So I went. I had a sefer that I got about Birkas Hamazon many years ago at this point, and it was put out by Rav Rimon. Okay, hopefully you've heard of Rav Rimon before. It was preeminent posek in Eretz Yisrael. Um, so he writes this is in his sefer about just practically how many fluid ounces are we talking about is revius, and how much is the rov revius? Because you have to make kiddush, as we'll see, on a revius. That's the minimum amount in your kos shel kiddush. You have to have a revius in there. You can't use a little tiny shot glass for kiddush. That doesn't work. Okay, that may work. I'll only say it may work for Shabbos morning. He's actually going to discuss what happens if you make kiddush over whiskey on Shabbos morning. So he's going to talk about the shiurim here, and he's actually not so makel about the whole situation. But the revius, he says, is equal to 86 cc's or 2.9 fluid ounces. It's actually not so much, really, if you think about it. Each one of those shot glasses, if you look on the bottom of that right there, David, how many? What does it say? Does it give you a number of how many ounces that? It should say one, right? The 1.0. 1.0. The 1 ounce. So it's basically the equivalent of 3 shot glasses. Okay, of these small little ones, the plastic ones.
This shot glass is what, a revius?
That's 2.9 is a revius according to Rav Rimon.
And you need rov.
So then when you drink, when you only thing is kiddush on the equivalent of 3, and then when you drink, you have to have a majority of that, a little more than basically you'll have about 44 cc's. I mean, 86 is the revius, you're gonna have 44. Again, somewhere in the neighborhood of a little over 1.5 fluid ounces. The Chazon Ish has larger shiurim across the board. He thinks that a revius is 5.1, so you have to think of the majority of that's around 2.6. To get you to a rov revius. Okay, yes, Cindy, you have a quick question there? I see your hand up.
Yes, it seems to me that these wonderful learned gentlemen are missing the point according to the Mechaber, because I could make the case based on the halacha as it's stated here that Malo Lugmav for you is different than for me.
Yes, we're going to talk about that in a moment. This Shabru is going to bring that up. Yes, we're about to touch on that. Very good. Yes, is there subjectivity here to the person that's consuming? Okay, good. So let's take a look down at the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Katan Samech Dalet. Sarich Lishtos. You need to drink from the Kos Shel Kiddush, at least a Malo Lugmav. Okay. V'im lav, says the Mishnah Berurah, lo yotza. You're not yotza the mitzvah of Kiddush. Lo yotza, he says. Fascinating. Then you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah. The presumption, by the way, if you made Kiddush for other people and you didn't drink enough, maybe you actually didn't fulfill the mitzvah for them either. So you have to drink at least a Malo Lugmav. Now, what is that? How do we even define this? Samech Hey. Kimlo Lugmav. By the way, that's why the word sarich is there. I think that's where the Mishnah Berurah is picking up on that. You have to drink at least this amount, otherwise no good, right? That's why it says sarich lishtos. Okay. Now, samechei kimil lo lugmav diva'inan shir choshuv. What is the whole significance of a malo lugmav or a rov revius approximately? It's that it's a shir choshuv. It's like it's an amount that it gives you some of a certain level of importance. What's the importance here? That it's a certain status. Shetisiyashev dato al yedezeh. Because that's like I drank enough that I really enjoyed that. It put my literally tisiyashev dato means to put your mind at ease. Like I drank enough that I enjoyed from it. I didn't just take a little sip. I really was able to. So that's what halacha determines as the minimum amount that you've consumed something. Otherwise, it's just a sip. It's not a real thing. And by the way, there are times when te'ima ba'alma is fine for halachic purposes. You make a bracha rishona. If I take a sip of water, you make a bracha rishona. But when it comes to doing the mitzvah of kiddush al yayin, you're supposed to drink enough that it's misyashev your das a little bit. Little, yeshiva das. I drank a little bit. Okay, so now let's keep going. We're not done here with this. There's a lot. It's there's a lot to say here. Samech vav dahainu v'chulei. Meaning, this was going on the comment that explaining how you could push everything to one side of your mouth into one cheek, and then it would look full. And so he writes here, "V'lo ba'inan sheyehei melo piv mamash mishnei hatzadim." And this wouldn't make sense if I explained it the other way. Melo lugma really means a full mouth, but what it means is you push everything to one side, and he's clarifying it doesn't mean you don't need to have a full mouth mamash on both sides. Okay, one side you push everything to one side. That's enough of a measurement here to explain milo lugmav. And Samach Zayin, he says here v'hu v'chulei. Now he gets to the part about a rov revius. V'shir zeh dai afilu im haya kakos gadol shemachazik kama revios. Now this is an important halacha because this is different on Pesach night, and it's actually a very important halacha, so you don't end up falling off your chair at the end of Magid. So he says here that the shear of a rov revius, let's approximate it around 1.5 or so ounces, is enough no matter how big your cup is. You can have the biggest goblet in the world, and it's machzik. Remember, we learned the halacha. You're supposed to fill your cup up. You can be machzik 8 fluid ounces, right? That's a big kos. You don't need to drink more than a rov revius, a malo lukmav, when you make kiddush. By Pesach is a different halacha. The halacha really is, anyone know? For sure, at least rov kos, and even some are more machmir to have the whole cup. So in my house, my seder on Pesach before, that's why I've done these experiments of how big is malo lukmav. We will measure it out. I'll use Rav Rimon's shiur, and I'll try to purchase, even if it's one of these like plastic, you almost put it together kind of wine glass that are like a little around 3 ounces, a little over that, because people, otherwise if you're drinking a rov of 6 fluid, time you get to that second cup and you finish magid, you're gonna be on the floor. If you're drinking even really, you're supposed to drink the whole thing. By the way, the rov is like a backup. Really, but you're not. But a malo lukmav is not really enough on Seder night. But the evidence is, meaning, if all a person drank was a malo lukmav for any of the arba kosos, I'm not saying you don't get your check mark for. But the halacha says you're really supposed to drink. Even Ramon had that in his sefer I saw. You're really supposed to drink at least a half of the cup. Whatever, and how much it is in there, and ideally, you should try to finish the whole thing. So just giving you that eitzah on Pesach, you should really don't try to use cups that are too big. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I'm having a memory right now. I just recorded. I don't know if I should say things, but you should ask Ryan Morgenstern about a famous story he had at his seder, or infamous, I don't know, that revolves a large cup. You'll ask him about it.
The people who were young saying your kiddush have to drink.
No. Pesach night, leave that aside. But no, actually, we're about to talk about that. It comes up on the next page. We're going to hopefully get to that today.
Right.
The question is going to be discussed is, can my drinking and your drinking, if you hear my kiddush, can we add your consumption and my consumption to malo lugmav, and that counts? That's going to be the shaila. Okay, yes, Simeon, go ahead.
Rav, I have to go back to malo lugmav again, because lugmav is in the plural.
Yes. No. Lugma would be.
No. Otherwise, it would be malo lugmo.
Okay, but that's why it would be. That's why it's his mouth, his whole mouth. Cheeks.
Both sides.
Right. Correct. That's why when he has to explain it, he has to give you a perush here, because otherwise you would think. That's why the Mishnah Berurah says you don't need a full mouth of both sides. Malo lukmav means your mouth is full, not like puffing out. If you want to know exactly, move everything to one side of your mouth and then have a puffy cheek. That's the same amount.
Okay.
Yeah. What was that, Richie? A little before my time.
So
It's showing you would puff his cheeks out when he's. So right, his cheeks, his cheeks, plural, were full, and he was machmir. He was machmir. He didn't need both cheeks. He was one cheek full. But Simeon, that actually, but your grammar pickup is correct, and that's why the clarification is necessary. That milolugmav really only needs to be where you're puffing out one side of the mouth. Okay. All right. Samich ches. And by the way, anybody who wants to try that experiment too, by the way, if you did a milolug, if you puffed out both cheeks and you had how much were you able to be machzik in your mouth, versus the one side, and then let's measure that up against some of the postkim's measurements of a Rover-Vius. So here comes the question that Simeon raised before about different people have probably different sizes of mouth. I don't know. Their cheeks are different. I don't know. He says the Yerubo Shel Revius Samaches. Hainu be'adam beinoni machazik shiuro kach. The average person can hold a rove revius in their cheek. Okay? All right? That's the average person, an Adam Beinoni. Aval Adam Gadol Beyoser, person who is bigger. I'm not sure this depends on height. Does it depend on height to have a bigger mouth? I'm not sure. But Misha'arin Kimelo Lugmav Dide Lefi Godlo. If you have somebody bigger, so then you can measure the Melo Lugmav for their size, for their larger size.
Okay.
Okay? Umikol makom lo boy lishtos tfei revis. But for sure, you don't need to drink more than a revis. So rove revis maybe is an estimation, but a revis, you're enough. So you have this would be crazy though. I don't know that if a person in their mouth could hold in one side of their mouth could hold 2.9 fluid ounces. If it could hold more than that, it could hold 3 fluid ounces in their cheek. Apparently, you don't need to drink more than 2.9. Like a revius, once you hit a revius, okay, a revius is enough. No matter how big your cheeks are, then you don't need to go more than that. That's your max. Vida deshir revius. Now he explains how do I get to a revius. So let's take a look at this. Because the word comes from somewhere. It's not random, right? The revius sounds like it's a fourth of something. Okay? So he explains here, the shir revius who kema'at melo shte klipos mi beitza beinonis shotar negoles. The shir of a revius is equal to 2 eggshell worths. So if you probably poked a little hole in or whatever, and you filled up an eggshell with with water. It would a revius equals 2 eggshells filled with water from an average sized chicken egg. Okay, mibesa benonis shaltar negoles. Who now he explains how much is this? Who shir beitza umechza imaklipa. That equals 1.5 eggs if you count the shell. The first way I just described is 2 eggs, 2 eggshells that are filled. And I'm not counting the shell there. If you count the shell, it should be equal to 1.5 eggs. Okay? And the log who shisha beitzim. How do I know this? Because a log, these are measurements you'll find in the Gemara. A log, and actually in the Torah for those, right? The log comes up in the Torah. A log is equal to 6 eggs worth. Okay? In the Isa Gemara, that's the shear you'll find in the Gemara. Okay? Umimela, and if a log is equal to 6 eggs, umimela revius halog, a quarter of a log, do the math, hu beitza umechza, is 1.5 eggs, including the shells. What is that equal to? Again, just to review, that's equal to 2 eggs that are filled with liquid if I don't count the shell, of an average sized chicken egg. Okay? Now, so period. That's like the end. That's a period right there. Okay. So first of all, now you understand where revius comes from. A revius is a revius halog. A log equals 6 beitzim. Therefore, a revius is 1.5 beitzim. Okay. Now, the next part here is the chumrah that has been accepted by many parts of our Jewish community. V'yesh machmirin be'od be'inyan hashiurim. And there are those who are not just machmir, very machmir, machmirin me'od, right? When it comes to shiurim, the size of the amount of consumption. V'hochichu, and what do they say? What do those people say? V'hochichu, and they will they'll prove. Dehabeitzim niskatnu bizmanenu lemachatziz lima shehaya b'yemei haGemara. The chickens of our day, Yeridas Hadoros, their eggs are half the size of the days of yore. Okay, the alkane shir revius hu bekiflayim, and therefore revius needs to be double what you think it should be. If you take an egg and a half today, that's not enough. That would mean that the proper shir of a revius would be equal to 3 of the current day eggs. Okay, I'm not exactly sure. There's a famous sort of machlokes, that goes on out there. There are those who, on Pesach night, and they have the shear cards, and then you have to. And sometimes what's being asked of you to consume is far greater. So I'm not taking sides here. Is it possible that there's the eggs are laying? Either the chickens are laying eggs that are half the size. I don't know. I'm not. I tell you that I'm not enough of an expert. I don't work on a farm. I don't understand animals like this. Rabbi Natan Slifkin, who definitely is a controversial figure in certainly in the Haredi Welt. They've authored his books. They put his books into Cherem. One time on Erev Pesach, he sent out an email on his distribution list, which I wasn't on, but someone told me about it. Or maybe they forwarded it to me. And he sent a PDF apparently of and the email said, click here for the sheet that tells you kazayas. Everyone has their sheet how big a kazayas is, and he had a PDF and it was a picture of an olive. Not like it was just a picture of an olive. So look, the question: have the olives gotten smaller? Have the chickens laid smaller eggs? Look, even the Mishnah Berurah used the words machmirid me'od. Just putting it out there. Even he uses those words, and that's the nafkamina. He says v'chei nafkamina mizeh le'inyan kizayis matzah. There's a very practical difference here. If you're trying to do the mitzvah, that's the biggest one, by the way, because even by kiddush, the oraisa of kiddush is not through the wine. The wine aspect of kiddush is the rabbanon. It's to enhance the mitzvah. Where it really comes into play about the shiurim is by matzah, because there the consumption is the mitzvah. The consumption itself is the mitzvah d'oraisa, and there if I don't eat the kizayis, I didn't do my mitzvah. So there, that's the real nafkamina of the have the sizes changed because the sizes that they were referring to in the Gemara were of larger chicken eggs, and so again.
Look at the size of the fruit that the spice came back with.
Right, great. So I think people who are on that the fruit used to be bigger. Yes.
Then it's kazayas.
But those were abnormal.
Okay, but
I believe so. Yes.
slowly getting smaller. The olive.
Hit zayit, like the size of an olive, like an olive. Yes.
You're talking about having the
It's nothing, right? If you
I'm just saying they were very.
so imagine if you had an olive.
High-end.
Pick the smallest olive we have out there today, but you have like a big olive like this, and you have to include all the volume of it. So if you crush up the matzah's flat, but matzah has it's not 3-dimensional, Matzah is 2-dimensional. So you have to think about, how much matzah you're going to eat in order to ensure that, you've eaten.
I would say it's less than a quarter.
I would say it's less than a
The
quarter.
amount of matzah that they show is a kazayas.
Right,
Like a whole matzah.
right, and I believe that those sheets are based on the chumrah that the eggs have shrunk, so that they're saying a kazayas is double what it probably looks like if you were to take an olive, put it in the blender, and figure out how big this is, or take an egg and put it in the blender and get the fluid ounces of.
Or just see how much water is.
Right, or do where you have to add a little bit, because 1.5 eggs, including shells, equals 2 eggs with just the liquid inside, where you don't include the shell, right? And then you could figure out, right?
You can figure out how big I think a kazayas is half an egg.
Right.
I've never seen an olive that big.
No.
And if they say that our eggs today are small,
It's not the.
because
Right.
if the circumference of the olive is only half the circumference of the egg, and I've never seen one that big, then its volume is an eighth.
Right. It's that's what I'm saying. The whole chumrah around the matzah that has to be like you're eating like a whole board of matzah is interesting. By matzah though, the best.
Measure to a volumetric measure is 1 to 8.
Right.
So
Right.
that's much smaller.
That's even a smaller shear, right?
Yeah.
So by the way, and by matzah, just to make everybody aware, and we'll get to this when we get to Hilchot Pesach in about 6-7 years from now, but we'll get there soon. Don't worry, we're almost there. When we get to Hilchot Pesach,
This year.
if we had this year every day, by the way, then we would make it to more like a couple of years to Hilchot Pesach. Yes, nothing would make me happy though. But my family knows that on Sunday morning I'm in a happy, I'm in a jolly mood after this year. I love teaching. See, he knows. So on Pesach, you have to have 2 kezesim matzah. One is to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, but one that some may say you should also have another kezayis because you may have motzi, and that's a separate inyan. So you end up needing to have 2 kezesim at motzi matzah. One to get to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, that's its own inyan, and then there's the hamotzi aspect of it, where I need to have a kezayis there. That's not everyone will hold to that, but if you have 2 kezesim, all right, so that's where a little bit more of the. Then you have to have korech, or you have to have another kazayas matzah. Correct. And then the afikomen, we also have a kazayas matzah. Correct. So there's.
One left.
According to the sheets, though, that's like 6 matzahs. Okay. Let's
Rob,
keep. I could go on all day about the shiurim. Yes, Simi, go ahead.
Rob, one thing here is very clear, and that is that irrespective of how many eggs worth we have to eat, when it comes to Kiddush, the minimum amount to mandate Kiddush with its bracha is infinitely more than the Kazayit or the Kibetza, the Hillel and Shammai minimal amount required for a bracha. Kiddush is much more.
Well, let's just remember the measurement here. For Revius is, Roe Revius is 1.5 eggs, including their shells. And actually, look at this next line that we were about to read here. That's why he's saying he said kazayas matzah to kachatzi beitza. A kazayas is equal to a half an egg. So a kazayas is actually a larger shear compared to. Excuse me. It's a smaller shear compared to revius. Is that what you were saying, Simeon?
Yeah, it seems to me to make a bracha, to support the bracha, you need a kazayit, or if you hold like Shammai, kibetza.
Right. Yes, but here a revius
you need more.
A beitza and a half. That's correct. Correct.
Kiddush mandates more.
Yes, if you're going to turn it all into yes, 100% in total volume at the end of the day, it is more, but it's because it's a liquid. Liquids we measure in a revius. If it's a solid, we can start talking about kezesim, in terms of minimum amounts for mitzvos. All right. Now he says the ayim be'er halacha masha kasavnu be'inyan zed. The nachon lachosh l'divrayim. He says it's right to be careful for their words. Le'inyan kiddush shalayla. So he thinks he should have more than he thinks he should have the equivalent of 3 eggs minimally for kiddush at night. Ba'al kol panim yira lechatchila sheyachzik hakos kishnei beitzim, or at the very least, instead of having, because we said that a shir revius. I keep getting this little. Revius is again. So I guess with my own memory here was a revius. Halog is exactly 1.5 eggs. Right, so he says at least when you're making kiddush, instead of having 3 in the cup, 3 eggs worth, and drinking 1.5, you should at least have 2 eggs worth in the cup, and then drink, and drink from there. I'm a low lugmav. He says here, and when you drink, even though it's going to be a big cup, you could drink the equivalent of malo lugmav for yourself, meaning whatever fills half your mouth with a puffy cheek. Vida od de hashir shel malo lugmav Sarech lishtos b'lihefsek harbe ben time. You should drink the shear of malulukmav without having too much of a break in between. Turn the page. Dahainu shelo yishe mitchilas shesiya rishona ad sof shesiya acharona yoser michdei shtiyas shesiyas revius. You shouldn't have such a break from the first sip that you take to the last sip you take in the measurement of a rove revius, or we'll call it a cheekful, more than it takes to drink at a normal pace of a revius. So yeah, you have to drink probably around a rove revius. Okay, around a rove revius, in the time it would take you to normally drink a revius if you drank at a comfortable pace. Okay, now that's I don't know that that's like, people run into such issues, but if you are only taking a sip at Kiddush and then another sip, it's probably not enough. Right? You probably do need to really have a good first consumption, of it, and you can take a second, and then that might get you there. But if you're just sipping the wine, that's not going to be enough. You're not going to get there if you just keep sipping. Oh, I'll finish my whole cup by the end of the meal. No. That's going to take you too much time. Okay. Now, keep going here. Ve'alkol ponim lo yafsik zman rav kedei achilas pras. Nevertheless, you shouldn't stop for more time than it takes to eat a loaf of, normal time it takes to eat a loaf of bread. And we usually assume it's like 9 or 10 minutes or something like that. If you stop for the size of it, that it would take, if you have that kind of a break, a 10-minute, whatever, you didn't consume any wine in the interim, af b'di'eved lo yotza, or even b'di'eved didn't fulfill the mitzvah. Okay, on whiskey. If a person makes, by the way, I always love the name of whiskey in the halachic literature. Burnt wine, yain saraf. Okay, he says you have to be careful if you're going to use whiskey for kiddush in the morning. People get tripped up by this because why? When you don't take his suggestion here is when you make kiddush over whiskey. This is what he's saying. You make kiddush over whiskey, you need to make still the minimum shear of a revius. That's a lot of whiskey,
right? Yeah.
Right, and if you have to drink a malolugmav of whiskey, okay, malolugmav, but a malolugmav b'chdei achilas pras of whiskey means I'm consuming a cheekful of whiskey in less than 10 minutes or something like that. That's a lot and that's why he even uses the words. A lot of people are lihi kashal bazeh. I'd like to think he had double. It was a double meaning. Yeah. A lot of people are stumbling after this, or you could also say a lot of people stumble on this halacha because they just, as is the case with whiskey, you take a shot, you take a little sip. You don't drink a malolugmav of whiskey. So he's not. It's clear from this reading of the Mishnah Berurah that he's not a fan of the little shot kiddush. There are those who say that that's okay. I'm not gonna stand up here and say that this is 100%. No one holds of this. But certainly the Mishnah Berurah thought if you're going to make kiddush even on Shachris, in the morning on whiskey, you still need to make the shiurim work. You make the kiddush, but you got to make the shiurim work. So not everybody. Again, some people hold. I think it's the Taz that says that because the sheer chashuv, remember it's about what's chashuv, what's misyashav your das, is smaller for whiskey compared to wine. He holds that even that. I think it's the Taz. But don't hold me to that. But yeah.
How is that in the morning?
How are you saying it's even possible in the how you say how is it even possible that any non-wine is allowed? I will say, and unapologetically, I will say that lechatchila you really should use wine. We're going to see that, by the way. That's not me. We're going to see.
People would say making scotch in the morning.
Yeah. You could be. Yes. Yeah. Well, because we're going to get to that. We're going to get to kiddush, in the morning. We'll talk about what you
the
can use.
does it on wine for everybody, and so therefore you're all yotze, and so it doesn't really matter what you do.
When he makes kiddush, yeah. We use grape juice.
So then, if I make Kiddush.
Yeah, you can listen. You don't have to drink. You don't have to drink. The person who makes kiddush, we're about to actually get to this right now. The person, actually, it's the next part here. Watch this. Let's keep going. Let's go to Sif Yudalad. Shulchan Aruch, top of the page. Im lo tam hamikadesh. Okay, literally on what David was just talking about. If the mikadesh, the one who makes the kiddush, doesn't taste from the cup, v'tam echad mehamesubin kemelo lugmav. But what somebody else, he hands the cup to somebody else, and they drink their minimum shear, right? Melo lugmav. By the way, you see here, you have it in your edition? In mine, it has like a peirush here, melo piv. It literally means a mouthful. That's why you had to clarify that it's one side of your cheek. Anyways, yotza. That's fine. So I could make kiddush and hand it off to anybody here, and if you drink the right amount, we're all good.
Yes, Adi,
Little cups.
The little kids.
You know, if you make it, it's gonna the little.
no,
Oh, that's
Drink that thing.
no.
yeah, well. Oh, as opposed to can a minor be the consumer of the
Well, it's saying here that it could be someone else who drinks.
echad me'amasubin? Yeah.
Right, so then, but if the kids, you bought them the ones who are getting the grape
You're
juice.
talking about in shul.
Oh, it's the Friday night kiddush here in shul.
They're getting the grape juice, so that they're all getting shots of the grape.
So hang tight. You'll see in a moment. It's a good observation, by the way.
By the way, Rav, that one
Yeah.
person must be one of the people at the table that heard the Kiddush.
Absolutely. Echad me'hamesubin. Correct. They are literally mesubin means laying down. They're one of the people who are, at this feast. Very good. Yep. So now let's take a look for a moment at the Mishnah Berurah Samech Tes. Echad me'hamesubin. So he says here, the kevan shehamesubin shamu mitchila es habracha. Since the mesubin heard from the beginning, they heard the bracha, heard the whole bracha. V'hu kiven aleihem lahotzian, and the one making the kiddush had them in mind. Okay. Mehani ti'imasan lekulam. So then they can drink it. That helps for everybody. Everyone was a part of that kiddush. Someone who wasn't paying attention, who wasn't trying to be yotzei, drinks. And that new person says, they finish the bracha and they hand it to them and say, oh, well, thank you. And they start making kiddush, and they said, same cup, so it wasn't wasted, right? But they make a bracha mechadash, when he finally gets to drinking it, that doesn't help everybody else who was a part of the first kiddush. This guy wasn't a part; he wasn't mitzaref in the whole first kiddush. The dino keilu nishbach hakos lekaman. That's the halacha is like as if the cup got spilled, which we're going to come to the case of what happens which somehow in my house has never happened.
Yeah.
Nobody's bumped into me during kiddush, Baruch Hashem, and I've never spilled the whole cup of kiddush cup in the middle of kiddush or even after making kiddush. Lucky me.
Every Pesach.
Every Pesach, there's always some spilling, but that the whole cup, you've lost the whole cup sometimes? Okay, a whole cup. So they're gonna tell what happens if you drop the cup by accident. You're about to take it, and it literally spills all over. So we're gonna talk about what do you do if you spill the whole cup.
I'm a little confused.
But we'll get there, yeah.
I think it's a I make kiddush
Yeah,
Friday night, let's say. I make kiddush.
you make kiddush Friday,
I
yeah.
drink wine. I have the whole thing, and I make a borur priya gafen. I can go ahead and give my wife or somebody else sitting there, whatever part of it, the entire cup. They could drink and be yotzei, and I don't have to drink anything.
That's correct.
That's the only time I find that you can make a bracha, and
Yes.
and not drink anything.
There's another time. I've done this.
Oh, at a chuppah.
At a chuppah. The
Right.
rabbi makes the bracha bori
But-
priya gafen, and he makes
So every Friday night we could do that same thing.
Yeah,
Isn't that a
the
huge
reason
finish? I mean,
it's
why
a
don't I
wop,
just make a mazonos here and then give it over to you?
right? Which you could otherwise never do.
Right.
The reason is, I think Mr. was about to explain this. I think, or maybe it was our Hashulchan was. It's because you are doing a mitzvah, and the wine is a part of this mitzvah, and you can make a birchas mitzvah for somebody else. You are allowed to do that, right? And since the wine is part and parcel,
So it's not really a
The
net.
mitzvah,
It's not a birchas.
it's a birchas that is connected to it, and out the connection with the mitzvah, I'm allowed to give you the wine to drink. What do you say? Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
You are able to. That's why I can make the bracha.
Shofar, the guy who blows it also hears. Here, I could say Baruch Hagaf and give Shlomo the wine. I don't have to drive it. I could.
Right. Correct. Yes. It is a chiddush. You are otherwise. I thought Aruch HaShulchan addressed this. Let me just quickly take a look here. Here he talks about it. If I'm not mistaken, he talks about it here. He says, "V'nira da'ayin kedu tehine zemuchach lehedja be'eruvin." And the Gemara in Eruvin, this is Aruch HaShulchan. The koshel bracha ein ikuv im ein hamavarach shosehu ela acher. The Gemara in Eruvin talks about this. Shaharei omer sham le'inyan Yom HaKippurim lemai dahava spir leish jiyesh levarach shechiyanu al hakos. The omer sham hechi avid. How can you make shachiyan on a kos on Yom Kippur? Are you going to drink it? So the Gemara asks it, "Even varach aleh v'shas aleh given the amar azman kiblei liyom kippurim v'aser liyas." So what do? The Gemara suggests liyasvei liyanuka, give it to a kid. But how could you even think about such an answer? Again, we don't do such a thing. But the fact that you could even answer that you could make a shechianu over a cup of wine on Yom Kippur, and that I can hand it to a kid as being a valid answer, shows you that when it's tied to a greater mitzvah, for being Mekadesh the day, then you can't hand it off because it's all out the mitzvah, and we're all a part of the mitzvah. Okay, yeah. So that's you perish Rashi. Rashi says there in Eruvin, that it says that the mevarach has to taste. Lav dafka mevarach who din acher. The tamab hu mishum dignai lekoshel bracha shaliyahan adam. It's a gnai. It's a disgrace that the person who made the bracha shouldn't at least take something. But it's not to say that you have to taste it. Okay, that's how Rashi explains it in the Gemara there. All right, so we're going to see that the Gaonim they're not going to like this. The Gaonim are going to come in, the Shulchan Aruch is about to bring it in. The Gaonim are going to be the ones who insist that if you make Kiddush, you should taste it. But Ikar Hadin, technically you can hand it off. The Gaonim are going to argue with this. This is why you've probably never been to somebody's house where they've handed the cup to somebody else fully and they've drank it. Drunk. Yes, Shalom.
So if you make a Kiddush and you have a party of people sitting next to you, making Hilchot Shabbat, you drink the wine. Do they have to drink the wine to come up to be Yotze?
If I make Kiddush, I drink.
You drink the Milah.
No, they don't have to. We're about to see. Where is it?
Can I drink a little bit?
We're actually going to be. We're about to get to that part where next line addresses your question. Yes, David.
If Shlomo could drink my wine here,
yes.
Could I just drink a less than a shear and then he drinks and he starts?
Meaning you drink first a lesson of a logov and then give it to him?
Yeah, I mean
probably.
There's nothing. It's
Coming up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's saying no.
Let's take a look here.
It says no.
Rav,
Here we go. Yes, Damien.
It says yeah.
Rav, I don't know what Masechta you just read from, but I remember learning in a Masechta, and I don't recall which one for the moment, about a Yom Tzom, if there's a bris milah, and the bris milah actually overrides the mandate of the Tzom, and the Gemara offers a couple of alternatives. One is the Yeled Hanolad, and
if on Yom Kippur you have a bris, and so the mother is no longer in the category where you can give her because she's outside of the 3 to 7 days, maybe.
Right.
On Yom Kippur, the eitzah is to give it to the tinok, a little taste. But here's the difference. I just want to explain something. You don't give him a shear. Okay, let it be on the record that I said this very clearly. You don't give the baby the shear because, and this is in general the case. The only time you need a revius, a row revius or malol lukmav, is when you are drinking for a kos shel mitzvah. If you are not where it's not just a minhag that we use there. At the chuppah, it's a minhag that we use the kos. At a bris, it's a minhag that we use the kos. Now it's already in Shulchan Aruch. It's not like it's a. You won't find in the Shulchan Aruch it talks about that when you do the bris milah, like it does like Kiddush, that you have to use a kos. So there, a te'ima ba'alma is enough, which is why when the rabbi gives the chassan and kala, many of whom are fasted the whole day, you tell them take a sip. All you have to do is take a sip. You just because a bracha rishona, all it requires is a sip. There, it's to enhance the mitzvah, but it's not part and parcel of the mitzvah like Kiddush wine is. That's a very different drinking of a shear. The only other time where it's like that, I believe, is after Birkas Hamazon, where there's a mitzvah aspect to it, and even that today is not whatever is. But there, the Gemara talks about using a kos after Birkas Hamazon.
But also, you mentioned Rav Isha Hamiyaledes,
Yeah.
and that's important to know because she's within 8 days of having given birth, and she's not mandated to observe the fast.
For Yom Kippur, she is though. It's very complicated halacha, but yes, for
Eight days.
the other fast days, yes, I agree with you. The eitzah is to give it to the mother who gave birth, but otherwise, if it's Yom Kippur, yeah, give it to the
On
couple.
Yom Kippur, she's not off the hook?
No, unless she's in a medical state where she's in a sakanas nefashos, she's no longer 3 to 7 days is where it's you can. First 3 days, no, nothing. She can't even fast if she wanted to. 3 to 7 days is like if she can, she should. But after that, she's essentially a regular person for the halacha, which is very hard to tell a mother because they're probably not feeling so well. But we'll deal with that question when it comes up.
Okay.
Breastfeeding is a whole to do. It's not an easy shaila. Okay, take a look now. Next line in the Shulchan Aruch, end of the first line. Ve'ein shisiyas shnayim mitzarefes lemalol lugmav. According to the first opinion, two people's drinking can't be counted together. One person has to have a malol lugmav at some point. Okay, that's the first opinion. Sifkat on ayin. Take a look down below, just a short little thing. Debaina sheyitom be'atzmo o echad mehamesuvim shir hana tisya shevdato alav. As we'll see in Sifkat on Samachay. Why they insist? That's why, as we saw in Sifkat on Samachay. Why do we insist on someone has a logo? Because that's going to be yashiv somebody's das. You have to have like a little yishuv adas. Somebody has to have some yishuv adas from the wine. It's a shir chashuv. If nobody has enough of that, then it wasn't the full experience of the enjoyment of the sanctity of Shabbos coming in. So that's how you explain that line. Now back upstairs in the Shulchan Aruch, umikol makom. This goes to I think Shlomo's question from a moment ago. Nevertheless, mitzvah min hamufchar sheyitamu kulam. It's the mitzvah min hamufchar. It's the choicest of the mitzvahs. The way of doing the mitzvah is that everyone should taste from the Kiddush wine. Now, ayin aleph down below. Let's clarify one more fact here about that. Ainu te'ima ba'alma. Other people could just have a taste, which is, by the way, that's what we do around my table. Look a little whatever. I make Kiddush. I drink the shear. But the whatever you pour a little into these little cups and you give everybody. And that's enough. Te'ima ba'alma. It's a nice idea, but nobody has to drink those. It's certainly not a problem if you just listen. But it's a mitzvah min hamufchar. Ve'ein tzarich malol lugmav rak le'echad. Only one person needs to drink the malol lugmav. The custom of Magen Avraham, the mishi yesh lo yayin ma'at, and even the Magen Avraham goes further and says here, if you don't have a lot of wine left in the bottle, mutav sheyitom echad kashir v'hamesubin lo yitamu klal. Maybe you don't even have enough in the bottle to make it a second cup. So you know what? Only the person who made the kiddush drink the malol lugmav, and everyone else just doesn't taste anything. Kadesh yishar hanosa lamachar lekiddush or lahavdalah. So that way you have enough wine for the next day kiddush or havdalah. So yes, that's more important than the other people around the table getting a little taste. Yes, Richie. Yes. Yeah. You pour it in and it goes all the. Yeah.
Does the guy who made Kiddush drink first below Lugmav and then pour it in?
So,
What about pouring it from
so
another
what
cup?
I've done, this is what I do. I make kiddush. I have another cup that's full of wine over here, a big one, not full to the top, and I will take and I'll just pour. Before I taste the thing, I'll just take a little pour into this other cup. Therefore, the mitzvah kiddush wine is mixed in. All I have to do is a pima ba'almasa, even if there's a little drop that gets mixed into your personal little cup. So then I'll drink, because you should try to minimize the time between the bracha and the drinking, 100%. So I drink, put it down, take the other cup. I don't use that thing anymore because I don't trust it. Somehow that thing always is leaks. But I'll take from this cup, which is mixed with the kiddush wine, and I'll pour into the little cups, and I'll pass it around to people, whoever would like to drink. Yeah, that's what I do. But that way, you want to drink pretty quickly, but I take a little pour into the other cup. That way, the mitzvah kiddush wine is mixed in, and then I drink a little lugmav, and then I get to the business of pouring.
What about pouring for yourself into another cup and then just from your?
We're going to come to that. It's better if you drink from the kos shel kiddush, the one which you made the. I'm not saying you can't do the mitzvah that way, but it's better to drink. We'll see. We're going to come to that. Okay. Not today. Well, next week.
What people drink?
Yes, Tom.
Don't drink from the mitzvah. Just drink from their own wine.
Being they're not mixed in.
Right.
It's fine. They can do that.
It's not mitzvah.
It's not mitzvah minchar. Mitzvah minchar is the part of the kiddush wine upon which the person making the kiddush was holding, right? The shirayim, right. So but you could drink at that point because you're yotzei through my bar priagafen, let's say, and you have your little cup there. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't necessarily fulfill the mitzvah minchar. But if it's look, by the way, yes, yesterday, for example, I made kiddush on wine and I poured for all the people around the table, but not for the children. They had grape juice, so I had already pre-poured out the grape juice for them, and I just gave it to them. You have to weigh the different things, the values of the table.
The fact that they have different wines. It's
fine.
Yeah, it's fine. The bar guffin works for them. Yeah, 100%. But I didn't pour it from my cup into their, the wine into their. Yeah. Anywho, take a look back upstairs. Now, V'yesh Omer, second opinion. First opinion was one person has to have malol lugmav. Second opinion, Yesh Omer, opinion of the Ritva, which is the Kevan Shebein Kulam Tamu Kamalol Lugmav Yotsu. The shtiyas kulam mitzarefes lechashir. Because if you have two people or many more, actually more than two, if the amount consumed of the kiddush wine in the cup amongst all the misubim who listen to the kiddush equals imalo lugmav, that's enough because everyone's shtiya is mitzarefes to the shir. Take a look at Ayin Beis. The kevan shebein kulam v'chulei hainu b'diavad. This is all b'diavad, right? Aval lechatchila kulei alma tzarich shiyatam hamekadesh kashir. Everyone agrees lechatchila, the one who makes kiddush should be the one should drink a malol lugmav. It's more like after the fact. If you realize, you look back, like, ooh, never drank enough, but actually between everybody we drank enough. Okay, so you don't have to go back and make kiddush again. But really, lechatchila, you shouldn't follow the Ritva's opinion. It's a b'diavad halacha. He's saying it's that after the fact, you're okay. Okay. Now here comes the fascinating opinion. The Hagaonim. This goes to David what you were saying before. The Hagaonim Sovrim. The Gaonim had the opinion. She'im lo tam hamekadesh. If the one who made kiddush doesn't taste the wine, lo yatsa. Game over. Doesn't count. V'roi lachush l'divrei, and the Mechaber paskins, it's fitting to be careful for their words, meaning the person who makes kiddush should always make sure to drink. Okay? You say it's a chumrah, it's not in the Gemara. I agree. The Gaonim come after the Gemara, right? They're much later, but this was their opinion. V'dafka b'kiddush. This is specifically by the Gaonim when it comes to kiddush. Aval b'shar dvarim hateunim kos. Wedding, bris, modim hagaonim desagi b'teimas acher. Another person can taste it. That's why when the rabbi makes under the wedding, under the chuppah, the rabbi makes the bracha bar gafen, and then the bracha the birchas erisin. He gives the chassan and kala to drink. He doesn't even take. You don't take a sip even, as the rabbi. I'm telling you, don't take a sip, because it's not. It's a dvarim. It's dvarim hataunim kos. It's not a mitzvah. We hold a cup to enhance the moment, but you don't have to consume a particular shear. You have to consume a drop because you made a bar gafen. So you have to have something. But that's somebody else can do, which is the David's point. That is the chiddush. That I can make a bar gafen and then you could drink even a sip is the chiddush, because you're never allowed to do that. I can't make a bar mazonos and hand him an Oreo. That doesn't work. I'm not taking it from you. Okay? It doesn't work. Right? Unless I also am drinking, and if I eat an Oreo and I say mazonos and he also wants to eat the Oreo, that's fine. But I can't make a mazonos for him to eat the Oreo. That makes no sense. But when there's a mitzvah attached to the wine, through the channel of the mitzvah, which I can't do for other people making the bracha, then I'm allowed to hand it off to them. Anyways, let's take a look now, Yermo, for a quick moment.
But is that bracha valid according to the Gaonim if he himself, if the Makadesh doesn't actually taste the wine?
If it by the mitzvah of Kiddush on Shabbos, no. By other things, yes. Like again, a bris, a wedding.
I understand by other things, but on Shabbos, if he passes around the wine, are the other Mesubim required to recite the bracha themselves?
It seems, according to the Gaonim, yes, that you're not Yotze, according to the Gaonim. Correct. Oh, I hear your question. Hold on. We might not get to it today, but your question is dealt with. I saw my extra commentary over here. What about the other people? Like, why am I being held? It's a bad word here, but why am I not able to fulfill my mitzvah because you failed to drink the wine? I listened. I said amen. I did my job. My job was not to drink. Your job was to drink. Why am I subject to your mistake? Let's read a little bit here. Ayin Gimel Ayin Daled, and we'll read one comment, and then we're done. Ayin Gimel Lachosh L'Divrayim. Hainu li zoher lechatchila uv'diavad hiskimu harbe acharonim. Look, the Mechaber says when we're saying we're being careful for the Gaonim, that's lechatchila. B'diavad, after the fact, many acharonim agree that afilu shtiyas kol mesum mitzar for the lo lugav. You can even rely on the Ritva's opinion that add everybody's drink consumption up, and if that's a lo lugav, it could work. Ach shelo yishel al yidei shesiyas kulam. Yoser michtei achilas. First, you have to have it in the right amount of time, less than the time it would take you to eat a loaf of bread at a normal pace. Okay. V'dafka the kiddush ayin daled shehu dvar Torah. Why are we so machmir by kiddush about this inyan? That you have to that the person who makes kiddush, they should drink it. That's only when it comes to kiddush on Shabbos, because that's from the Torah. And the rabbis use a pasuk from the Torah as an asmachta to say why you should drink wine. You should remember it over a cup of wine. So therefore, we're more machmir about that situation than we are about other situations. Now, in my extra comments here, I think I had thought this before. Yeah, let's see here. So here they write number 79. I guess Tommy has the addition over there. Omnam lekaman. We're going to see. Oh no, this is going to be a problem that we're going to have in a moment. Here that I saw it. I'm just going to raise one problem, and then we'll solve it probably in a couple of weeks. But this is what my extra comments here say. Come on in Reish Ayin Gimel. So 2 simanim from now, the Shulchan Aruch writes over there, Sheyachol Adam levarech la'acherim es birchas hagafen shel hakiddush afal pi she'eino shosem mehayayin. He's going to write in a couple simanim, which is a complete stira to what he just wrote, that you can make a bracha bar gafen of kiddush for other people, even though you don't drink from the wine. Kevan Shabirchas HaGefen Hi Chovas HaKiddush. V'dina Kekiddush Hayom. And since the bracha of Hagafen is the obligation of Kiddush, and this is halacha that's tied to Kiddush Hayom, that's why you can make it for somebody else. But Licharahu Shelo Kashitas HaGeonim. This would be in complete contrast to the Gaonim, which he just quoted as a Roy Lachash L'Divrayim. So how do we explain this? Rabbi Akiva Eger gives a teretz. I don't know what you think about it. It's okay teretz. I mean, who I say it's okay. I don't see how it fully sews up the issue. Rabbi Akiva Eger says, "Sha'af l'das ha'gaonim." What you have to say is that even according to the Gaonim, ain't shesiyas ha'mekadesh me'akebes ela k'sheyotze af ha'mekadesh yedei chovaso b'kiddush zeh. When is the shitas of the Gaonim come into play? The shita of the Gaonim that affects you. If I make kiddush and I don't drink, and I give it to you to drink, according to the Gaonim, I'm not Yotze. You're not Yotze. The whole thing is ruined. But if I make kiddush for you, then you drink it. That's okay. He says the difference is because the shesiyah when is not me'akev or is only me'akev when I'm also being Yotze through the kiddush. So if I'm, according to Rabbi Akiva Eger, if I'm Yotze through the kiddush and I give it to you to drink, the Gaonim say that's not okay. You should have drank. You should have consumed from it because you're being Yotze. You're the one saying the words. Therefore, you need to drink it, which is a chiddush that should affect you. But let's say I'm just going to make kiddush for other people. Right? I told you about the case of the rabbi who goes, let's say I made kiddush for myself, and then on Friday night I go to the local nursing home to make kiddush for the patients there who are not able to even hold the cup for themselves. But I want them to hear I want them to hear, or I want them to, I don't know, and then they can drink it if I give it to them, but they don't know the words of kiddush, whatever. I go and make it and I give it to them to drink. My drinking doesn't matter. Because I never made the kiddush for myself, I made it for you. So by handing it to you, then it's okay. So I hear Rabbi Akiva Eger's splitting hairs here. But it's a chiddush to say that if I'm being Yosef through the kiddush, I have to drink it according to the Gaonim. So much so that the whole kiddush doesn't work.
How does that work?
People, then if I have that in mind, I'm not being Yosef through this kiddush, then it's okay if someone else drinks it.
Do you have to make a declaration does the Makadesh have to make a declaration before he makes Kiddush that this is everybody and not him?
I don't know if they have to make a verbal declaration, but they probably have to know in their mind, am I being Yotze? Which, you probably are thinking about, right? Am I Yotze? Even if you don't have to say it, but if you're thinking, I'm being Yotze through this Kiddush, then you're Yotze. If you're not, if your thoughts are, I'm making this for this patient, who's in the hospital, who's in the nursing home, and I want them to hear Kiddush, and they're going to drink it, then you're not Yotze. It's all about your mindset.
Must be the wedding situation. Then the bride and groom drink it, right?
That they have to have it in mind. By the way, so you should know I'm not a Sadar Kedushin too often, but when I am a Sadar Kedushin, I will.